Lauder's motion be agreed to. Ms Lauder.
Thank you, Mr Assistant Speaker. To speak to the amendment and to close. I'll repeat what I finished with last time. This motion has a call that is quite simple, quite modest, and I see no reason to simplify the call for information as in the amendment circulated by Ms Fitzharris. Given the community's legitimate concerns over the real commitment of this minister and the Labor Greens government to properly support domestic animal services and to support action on dangerous dogs, we've simply asked for the information to be provided with the information concerning resourcing of DAS. We've made this call because the Labor Greens government has for years been reluctant to take strong steps on this matter. I'd just like to mention a couple of points that have been raised in the comments made by the Minister and Ms Lakuta. As we ask for information, it might be detailed information, but realistically there is no particular format in which motions have to appear, and scrutiny of government decisions and government information is a legitimate, expected, important and crucial role in any Westminster Parliament. We call on the government all the time to provide information. Questioning that approach and implying that the information called for must be simplified is hypocritical, at best petulant perhaps as well. We continue to be told that DAS is still understaffed, including by DAS employees themselves. We've been told that people take months to get response to letters. We've been told it's taken a long time for the government to take action on resourcing in DAS. In fact, the Minister herself mentioned the need to go through the recruitment, the training, and that it will take time. Of course it does. Of course it does. And that's why it should have been done back in March last year when Mr Dospot first called for it, instead of being watered down by the Minister to consider more resources and adding extra time to that entire process. That process that the Minister today has said will take time. Imagine if she'd started that process back in March last year, as called for in the original motion. Wouldn't that be the thing? And once again, I find myself lectured to by members on the other side about what is the real intent of my motion. I'm sorry, but surely I would be best placed to understand the actual intent of my motion. The intent and spirit, in fact, I think Ms Lakuta said. Perhaps a little attempt at a little dig at me, but really what this shows, I've had this last sitting, I think, from Mr Gentleman telling me that his amendment better reflected my intent. What that actually shows is a patronising attitude. Patronising, condescending and snobbish. For those opposite, many of whom probably don't own a dictionary, patronising means to treat with apparent kindness which betrays a feeling of superiority. So telling me that your amendments better reflect the intent and spirit of my motion. Thank you so much. I feel so much better now. So much better for having you tell me what I really need. But let me go back to the unfortunate death of a woman as a result of an attack by a dog. This was part of the original motion. It had to be part of the motion. The government has made it so. Because this minister has consistently refused to commit to extra resources for DAS to manage uncontrolled and dangerous dogs, eventually action by the minister was only triggered by the death of a woman in response to from a dog attack. I remind the Minister that in a motion to the Assembly on the 29th of March 2017, Mr Dospot called on the government to allocate more resources to investigate serious attacks by dogs, and in her answer, Minister Fitzharris changed the motion to read, "Consider allocating more resources." On the 21st of September, in a ministerial statement on the management of dogs, the Minister still did not commit to more resources. Sadly, that commitment to more resources was only triggered by the death of a woman in Watson later that year. I don't wish to be lectured by Ms Lakuta. I hope she can hear me, even though I'm addressing the Speaker. I do not need to be lectured by Ms Lakuta on our action on the issue of dangerous dogs. In Mr Dospot's bill last year proposing stricter action and penalties on dog management, it included 1. In the event that a dog causes serious injury or death to a person or death of a domestic animal, the registrar A must seize the dog and must hold until the completion of investigations. B must make an investigation into the incident. C must destroy the dog subject to strict exceptions or in exceptional circumstances, declare the dog dangerous and must impose control orders on the owner of the dog. So in justifying her position in voting against Mr Dospot's bill, Ms Lakuta said, and I quote, "What is going to be the real-world impact on a family whose dog escapes their yard and attacks someone? What happens to them if they're suddenly hit with a $20,000 or $40,000 fine? Are they going to lose their home? What is the actual impact?" Well, I can tell you, if you haven't worked it out for yourself, what the actual impact, the real-world impact of supporting Mr Dospot's bill in 2017 would have been. In March 2017, a dog seized by DAS officers in Watson would have likely been put down. In August 2017, a dog seized by DAS officers in Watson, if not previously put down in March, would likely have been put down. If Mr Dospot's original bill had been supported, perhaps the tragic events of October 2017 in Watson would not have occurred. That, Mr Assistant Speaker, is the real-world impact of not dealing with dangerous dogs. Many dangerous dogs might already have been destroyed. Many innocent pets, such as Ms Kalessa's cat, might still be alive, and many owners would not have been traumatised as they have been. Instead, since we've taken on the issue of uncontrolled and dangerous dogs, the government plays politics with it because they don't want to admit that the opposition might be right. Their inaction has seen dozens and dozens of innocent pets savaged, mauled and killed by roaming dogs. It's seen unmeasurable suffering and grief by owners across the city who've lost their pets or seen them terribly injured. I remind people in this chamber that there are real-world impacts. There are real-world impacts of the things that you say and do in this chamber beyond politics, and you would do well to remember that. They affect the lives of Canberrans. I call on the Assembly to support my motion and reject Ms Fitzharris's motion. Provide the information that's requested. There is nothing wrong with that call for motion. And the watering down to patronisingly say it better reflects the intent and spirit of my motion is revolting. It's reprehensible and it's absolutely repulsive, and I call on you to reject the amendment.
Question is